1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever click you choose, you better
say what's cracking, YouTube. It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. You already know what it is. Today we got another interview. Today my guest is a guy by the name of Ricky Dye. He done 20 years straight in the Oklahoma correctional system, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his experiences. So how you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing good, Chill. Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate that.
Hey, thank you for reaching out to me. You know, and due to the fact that, of course, you know, I have a prison show, I always like to share the experiences of other people. And by you doing time in Oklahoma, I definitely thought that would be interesting to get an idea of the different politics and stuff that goes on out there. So thank you for reaching out to me, man. And thank you for coming on.
Bet, man. I really appreciate that. You know, I've watched a few other prison channels and I've checked out yours. And, you know, prison is all the same. No matter where you at, you locked up, you lost your freedom. But still, everything still has a few things that are different in every prison system. So things you may be able to get away with in California or Virginia, you may not be able to get away with in Oklahoma or vice versa, you know.
Right. Different politics. Like you say, it's pretty much the same, but there's always different politics and different rules and stuff. So
yeah,
Ricky,
definitely.
You say you're from Oklahoma. If you don't mind telling us what part and tell us a little bit about how you grew up and stuff like that. Whatever, you know, whatever you're comfortable with discussing.
So I'm really from the country. I'm from a little bitty town about 45 minutes outside of Oklahoma City. And I grew up hunting, fishing. I was first string in all the sports in my little town. I was mostly a straight A student, got a few B's, but I grew up poor. I was embarrassed to the fact I didn't have no money. So I would walk to school and stuff, you know. So my friends that were popular and had money, so they wouldn't know I didn't have money. And that's kind of what led to getting me in trouble. Peer pressure, worried about what my friends think, stuff like that, you know.
Dang, that's crazy how you say that, right? Because it sounds like it's just pretty much everywhere. You know, that's the same type of stuff that goes on out here in California. Peer pressure. We wondering what our friends are thinking about us, basically trying to be accepted. So about how big, you know, was the town?
So it's 1,500 people in the whole town.
Oh, small.
So we're really small. Really, it was more land than anything, you know. So it's just one small high school. The 7th, the 8th, the 9th graders, all the way up to the 12th graders, we share in a couple buildings. So it's a really small town. I always went to church with my mom and grandma, with my grandma, my mom's, and I'd never been away from home. I had only stayed the night with my family. I had never stayed the night away from family. When I got locked up, I went straight from being with my mama to the penitentiary. So, you know, that's how it went.
Right. And so what do you think was the racial makeup of the town that you grew up in?
Before I went to penitentiary, I had never hardly even seen no black people. I had never seen nobody who was openly gay. There was one other black family in my mom's town growing up. She went to school with him. And as he grew older, he stayed in the town and he ended up being my basketball coach. And that was pretty much the only black family growing up. There was one other black family that came in later in high school, but it was one black guy in my whole school other than my basketball coach. So other than that, I never had been around any black people until I went to prison.
Right. Now, so with this family being the only black family in that town, do you think the guy and some of the time he had a little hard racially? You think he was teased? Was it a little bit of racism or?
No, not in the town that I live in. Like, it's a really church-oriented town. Almost everyone went to church when I grew up. So my grandmother, she raised us that every one of us were a child of God. And I never heard the N-word growing up. I never heard that till I got to prison. I'd
Wow,
never
okay.
heard that word. I didn't know anything about racism.
Right. And so what year were you born, just to give us an idea of the, you know, the generation you was growing up in and stuff?
I was born in 1973, and I went to prison when I just turned 15 in 1989.
What caused you to get in so much trouble that you were sentenced to such a long time?
So what happened was, like I told you, I was real poor and stuff growing up, but I was real popular in school. Like the girls liked me, my coaches liked me. I was first string in all the sports. I never got in trouble. And so I would try to impress my friends because they all had money. I would go and hang out at my friend's house, but I never would let them hang out at my house. The houses I had, they leaked when it rained. Not just a hole here and there. We had to get buckets. You feel me? So I wasn't letting my friends come to my house. But to make up for that, there was another friend that came to my school about 5 months younger than me. And when he was growing up, he was real thin and he couldn't put on no weight. So his family put him on steroids. So this guy, when he's 15, he's got hair on his face. He looks muscular. Everyone thinks he's tough. I had wrestled in school and I've gotten a lot of fights and everyone thought I was tough. So it come down to, they would dare us to do things, me and this boy, Kenny. And I wouldn't back down from a dare, and nor would he. And somewhere along the way, we got dared to rob a store. So neither one of us was going to back down from the dare. But at the same time, growing up poor, my mom, I had two little brothers and a little sister. And then I also had a little stepbrother and stepsister. So we were really poor. My mom's raising 6 kids. For some reason, I got it in my head, my mama don't love me no more. So I would sit outside every night. I had guns they gave me. I got guns for my 9th birthday to go hunting with. We hunted all the time growing up. And I would sit outside on the roof at night on a 2-story house and think about killing myself. So I was trying to decide I was either going to kill myself or run away from home. So Kenny comes to me with the idea that his dad lives in California. His dad's a dope dealer. If we can get to California, his dad's going to give us $1,000 a piece, a fake ID, and some dope to sell in a car. We're going to come back home and everything's going to be cool. So I watched too much TV, man. I was a kid. I'm thinking I'm going to go off with them. We're going to rob a store and go down here, get this stuff from his dad. We're going to come back to school. I'm going to have me a car and a fake ID and some money, help my family. Everything's going to be all good. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Right.
But then the boy accidentally shot the man during the robbery. And so...
Now, if you don't mind for a minute, let me just pause you and take you back a little bit. So you said that you had received a gun at the age of 9, and you had did a lot of hunting stuff growing up. So just out of curiosity, what were some of the things that you do hunting for sport or hunting to? Did you eat some of the things that you guys had
definitely.
But what were some of the things that you guys was hunting?
So we would hunt deer, squirrel, rabbit. The first gun I had was a 410 shotgun we used for squirrel and rabbit. That's what I started off hunting, but later on we would hunt deer. And at times we were so poor that we would go and poach deer with spotlights at night and use it to get meat to eat on.
Right.
And that's what we would eat.
And so I'm a little bit familiar with what you just mentioned, but for those who may not understand, let them know the particulars around poaching, because you're not supposed to hunt at night. Could you explain all that stuff to everybody?
Yeah. So what poaching is, man, is say we're sitting around the house, we ain't got nothing to eat. It's hard to go out and set up and hunt a deer and try to find them. So what you do is you find fields where they're grazing, and where you know they'll be in the fields at night. They come out in fields at night in the open to eat. And a lot of people will put what we call deer feeders out there, and they'll put corn and stuff in these feeders so that they know the deer come out there at night in these fields and eat. And it's illegal to do this, but you can pull up on the field at night and hit the deer with a strong spotlight. And when they look into it, it freezes them. They can't run. And then you could just shoot them right there. You gut them right in the middle of the field, throw them in your truck and drive off. And that's poaching. It's illegal. You'll lose your truck, your guns, a big fine, and probably go to jail. But when your family's starving, sometimes you don't have a choice.
In a normal hunting setting, what you're supposed to hunt in the daytime?
Yeah, really what happens is during squirrel and rabbit season, you just go get a license and you can hunt anytime during the day. But with deer, it's only during a certain season, like maybe for 2 weeks, and you have to go get a tag. You have to buy that tag, and then when you kill that deer, you have to put that tag on it. And that's the only deer you can kill, and it has to be a buck. It can't be a doe, except for in doe season. You can't even kill a female deer. But what we were doing is completely illegal. But we were doing it for food to eat. We weren't doing it for sport.
Right. Okay, and yeah, thank you for that breakdown. That was interesting, extremely interesting. Okay, now back to this robbery. So by you saying it being a small town, 1,500 people, I'm assuming that the guy that you was going to rob was basically you guys knew this guy, and it was a store that you had frequented and visited quite often. So how was that? How was the concept of going to rob a person that you guys knew, and obviously he knew you? Did you guys go in there with masks, or what were your young minds thinking as far as robbing this guy and getting away with it?
Okay, this is crazy, man. So what happens is when that night we were supposed to run away, and I backed out, and then I asked my mom to go spend the night with a friend. She told me no, and I told her she couldn't pick my friends, and she slapped me. And so that was what set me over the point and made me go ahead and run away right there. That decided it for me. So I called my friend, the 14-year-old. I go and get him. I got some girls. There's a pool hall blocked from my house that my mom would let me hang out at because she could look out the window and see the front of it. But I snuck out the back of it, and I got these girls who had license to run me over and pick him up. Now, they wouldn't take us to rob nothing, so they took us back to the pool hall where we got a guy who took us out to a party. There at the party, okay, before we went to the party, I had to ask my mom for permission to spend the night with a friend who lived 2 blocks from me. It was a lie. I hadn't even talked to him. It was just an excuse to get her to let me go for the night.
Right.
All right. Then I went to my bedroom and I snuck 2 guns out the window, a shotgun and a 30-30 deer rifle. We were going to use those either to sell them for money or we were going to rob a store with them. So I also had 2 ski masks. Okay. So we get these out, we hide them, and then we get these girls to drive us out and leave us at this party where we met the 16-year-old who would eventually take us to rob the store. Okay. Now, while we're out at this party, this party is a bunch of teenagers and people in their early 20s who went to school there in town. All the young people in town have went out to these people's house that aren't at home, having a big party, and they've all run out of beer. And we show up, and we're talking about running away from home and robbing a store. So these older kids start telling us how to do it, to get away with it, to get them. They want us to steal some beer and bring it back to them. So they're juicing us up, telling us we can do it, we can get away with it. So this 16-year-old says, I'll drive you to rob the store, but I'm not going to leave the state with y'all. You got to find another ride to leave the state to get to California. So we get in the car and we go to the store, and we go in this store. It's a little country store. And just like he said, I was getting the gas while the 16-year-old sitting there. The 14-year-old goes in to pay for it and comes back out and says, we can't rob this one. I know the guy, know his family. So we leave and go to another store. We get there and we're getting the guns out and stuff. And this man comes out looking for us. So we jump in the car and run because we're scared. So the reason for that was when I went to pick him up, the 14-year-old, he had an older cousin that lived with him. And when he was leaving with me with this bat and she knew he had guns, she tried to stop him. And when he went with me anyway, she called his mom and dad, his mom and his stepdad, and told them what we were doing.
Right.
She thought we were going to rob a store. We had talked about it at school. So she calls the police station, tells them that we've got guns and we're going to rob a store and run away from home. So this little town police station has called these stores, told them that there's some kids running around going to try to rob a store. So they're waiting on us, but we didn't know that.
So basically, you guys are already caught before you even rob the store.
Before we even start. We've told everybody.
They know who you guys are and everything, huh?
Everything.
Okay, so, wow. Okay, go ahead.
So yes, we're caught before, but we're kids. I
watch
too much TV. I don't really realize how serious this is about to get.
Right.
So when these people chase us away from this second store, the 16-year-old says, man, I'm taking y'all back to the first one. If you don't do it, I'm taking you back to the party. You're not going to do nothing. Okay. So we're headed back there, and somehow we have lost a ski mask. So 14-year-old says, I know how we can make him go with us. We can shoot the clerk. I said, no, man, we ain't going to kill nobody. We ain't going to kill nobody. And the other guy says, I'm not cool with no one getting killed. So we said, yeah, we're not going to kill no one. So what ends up getting, we pull up around the side of the store, and I'm supposed to walk into the store to get the man's attention. Then the 14-year-old is going to come in with a gun behind me and rob him with a ski mask on. Went in the first time. There's no cameras at the store, so we don't have to worry about cameras. It's out in the country. There's no store. This is in '89. So everything didn't have cameras back then.
Right. Very,
So
very few cameras back then, actually.
Yeah, wasn't that many. So he says, how do I know when to come in? I said, when I go in, you start counting 1001. When you get to 12, come in and rob him. Okay. So I go in the store, back to the back of the store. So the man's paying attention to me. I get to 12. Ain't nobody coming. I reach down and get a pop. I turn back around and there he is. He steps in the door. He points a gun like this. The guy behind the counter flinches like that. He turned his head, pulled the trigger, and the first shot hit him in the face and killed him instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. As soon as that shot went off, I tried to take off running and get out of the store.
So now, when he shoots and hits the guy in the face, this is the guy earlier that he said, I didn't want to rob. I know this guy's family.
Yes. Yeah.
So then he's come back and actually did, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, shoot the guy that he didn't want to rob it, and now it's killed him. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He knew him. His family knew him. My uncle used to go drinking with this guy.
Wow.
I didn't know him, but my family knew him very well.
How old was he?
He was in his 42, 43 years old.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So please proceed.
Okay. So I take off running to get out of the store. But you know how in a store where you walk around behind the counter, there's a spot there where you can walk around the counter. Well, he has fell right there. So when I go to leave, I look down and I see him. And it was like when my uncle would shoot a deer to me. The way his eyes were rolled back. He only had a small bullet in his head, but the back of his head was blown out. But you couldn't see that. I could just see this hole here, but wasn't a lot of blood coming from it. But there was smoke in the air. There was a smell that I will never forget. And he's laying there, and I'm looking at him, and I couldn't move. I was in shock. I could not move. Kenneth runs by me and goes back to the back and grabs beer, which was the plan. He runs back by and shoulders me and says, get the money. And that snapped me out of it for a second. I run over to the register. He takes the beer out. I'm trying to get the money out, but I'm in so much shock I can't think. I'm just hitting all these buttons. A car drives by. That really freaks me out. Kenny comes back in and says, get the money. And I snapped out of it for a second. I turned the key off and on with my palm, hit total with my elbow. It clicked, and I grabbed money. We go out and get in the car to head out of that place. David, the 16-year-old, he's flipping out. He is crying, literally crying.
And one more second, maybe you'll tell me later on, but of course I'll have to ask, or my subscribers will probably want to kill me. How much money did you actually get from the robbery?
$247.
Okay.
Not hardly shit.
Right.
Well, David didn't want none of the money immediately.
Right.
And I didn't want none of the money, and Kenny didn't want the money. Now that we've done this, we didn't mean to kill anybody.
Right.
Everybody couldn't believe that someone had got killed. And me and Kenny were like in this hysterical laughter. David tried to when he testified against us, he said that we were laughing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hysterical laughter. It wasn't, this is funny. It was like, hey, hey, hey. It was, I've never felt. That was the worst feeling in the world, to know that you've just killed somebody and the police are coming for you.
This story is very intriguing. So if you could paint the scenario when you guys got in the car. Now, did the guy driving, did he hear the shot? Did he know did he know someone was shot? Did he ask, hey, what happened? Because obviously, maybe I was gonna say obviously he couldn't see, but maybe he did. Maybe he was able to see from his vantage point in the car. So can you explain just briefly, what was that conversation like when you guys first hopped in the car? Man.
Okay, so whenever Kenneth beat me back to the car, I jumped in right behind him. He was in the back seat. I'm in the front. David is driving. David couldn't see what went down, but he heard the shot. Excuse me. So the way the car was parked, the building is here. The car was parked on the side, so he couldn't see. But he heard the shot when it went off. So we jump in the car. Kenneth has already put the gun in the back seat when he came back in to get me. But we run back, we get in the car. David said, what happened? What happened? What happened? Kenneth said, I killed him. I killed him. I think I killed him. I said, is he dead? I said, yeah, he's dead. I'm sure he's dead, man. I said, I can't believe you killed him. He said, I can't either, man. I didn't mean to kill him. And David says, I don't want none of that money. I don't want none of that money, because I was sitting there splitting it up. And when he says, I don't want none of that money, I said, I don't want this money either. Here, Kenneth, you can have the money. He said, no, I'm going to send it back. I'm going to send it back. And so I'm like, man, we gotta listen, man. If anybody asks, I said, we gotta go back to your house, David. I said, stop the car. We're putting the guns in the trunk. Stop the car, David. Stop the car. So there's ice all over the roads. on that night. It had been an ice storm. You had to drive like 15 miles an hour. We're trying to get back to his house and not go in the ditch. We put the guns in the back, in the trunk, and the beers. We weren't going back to that party and give them shit. So we went straight back to David's house real slow. And the plan was, said, man, if anybody asks, we've been at David's house all night since we left that party. We didn't go rob no store. We chickened out. We went to your house, and we've been there watching HBO all night. If anybody asks. I said, if anybody asks, we were watching Eddie Murphy Raw on HBO. Which that would have got us busted because it wasn't probably even on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was tripping, man. I was out there from that, what just happened. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Couldn't even think right. But here's one thing that saved us. As soon as we got to David's house, there was an old shed out back that didn't have a roof on it. And it was in the middle of a snow and ice storm. And I took the guns out of the trunk and I went out and stuck them in that shed where they could be snowed on and stuff. No. So when the police actually got the guns, they couldn't tell him when they had been fired.
How long did it take for the police to come over and start questioning you guys?
When we took the money out of the register, the register said 3:01 a.m. At 9 o'clock in the morning, I went back to my house. It was 2 blocks away from David's house. Kenneth got a ride with a girl that cut his hair, and he went to the city. At 9 o'clock in the morning, 6 hours after it happened, the police come and knocked on my door. Chief of Police in McLeod. But the thing was, the chief of police in McLeod was best friends with my grandpa. They were hunting buddies. Mm-hmm. He knew all of my family. They were very close. He's passed away now, so I can tell you this stuff.
Right.
Okay, without worrying about getting him in trouble. Okay. He come to my house, and he told my mom that the FBI and the McLeod police and the Oklahoma City police, it was a jurisdiction thing, and they were all out there at that store, that they had been robbed last night, and someone beat him to death with a ball bat. When Kenneth left his house, he took a ball bat with him. And they thought that we used it to beat him to death somehow. But I told him I didn't have nothing to do with it. I was out there. They were trying to talk us into it, but we came home. I stuck to my story.
Right.
So as soon as he leaves, my mom asked me if I had something to do with it. She thought I did, but I lied to her too. Now, the police left for a minute. Then he goes and talks, and evidently he figured out I was lying because he came right back, asked us again, and he pulled my mom to the side and said, I believe he had something to do with it. Out of respect for the family, I'm giving you a chance to decide what to do. Well, you're going to turn him in, you're going to run with him, whatever. That's on y'all, but this is the last. I'm going to go tell him he was at home with family, but they're coming back, so decide. So my mom takes me to one uncle, and he says he don't know what to do because there's no statute of limitations on murder. My mom wanted to run with me, but she also has all my brothers and sisters and it's 5 other kids. So he takes me out to my oldest uncle. He's a deacon of the church. He'd been a military veteran. And I thought we were deciding whether to run or turn me in on our way back to town because it's just a few miles. But on the way back, I was trying to get them to hide my gun. At this point, I'm lying to my family. I'm telling them I was just there. I just saw it happen. I'm not telling them it was my guns. I'm not telling them I took the money. So on the way back, I asked them to hide my guns. And my mom said, why would I do that? They can tell those weren't your guns. I said, they might think they are. She said, that was your gun, wasn't it? And I say, yeah. And she pulls over and puts me in my uncle's truck. I didn't understand. They've already called the police and told them I'm turning myself in. He's at my house waiting on me.
Right.
We pull in, me and my uncle. My uncle goes in and gets the murder weapon with a pair of underwear and comes and gives them to the police.
Wow.
Yeah, but they think they're helping me. They think that if I just go up here and tell the truth, that I was there and I didn't know nobody was going to get hurt, that I'm going to get to go home. They don't realize that in Oklahoma, there's no such thing as an accomplice to murder. No such thing as accessory. If you're involved in a felony and someone dies, you're guilty of murder.
Right.
So that's what got me guilty. Originally, the charge was first-degree murder and armed robbery. They went to the woman whose husband was killed, asked her how much time did she want him to wipe us out. The 16-year-old, in Oklahoma, you have to be 16 when the murder is committed to get the death penalty. So me and Kenneth, 15 and 14, they couldn't give us the death penalty, but they could give us 2 life sentences, one for murder, one for armed robbery. And David, they threatened with the death penalty. So he turned state's evidence against us. The woman whose husband was killed said she didn't want us to get a life sentence. She wanted us to get a chance at freedom because she thought it was an accident. We were kids. And like you said, our families knew each other. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that we didn't mean to hurt this man. This was an accident. Stupid kids, right? So she said, I want them to get back out, but if they mess up, I don't want them to get out again. So that's why I got 22 in and 12 out. So that if I mess up, I'd have 12 street time. And he got 38 out, 38 in and 12 out. He had 16 years more than me, but beat me home by a year and a half.
Now, the way you just explained the sentence is something that I'm not familiar with. So could you explain that a little bit more in depth, how that works?
So in Oklahoma, what they do is they gave me a 34-year sentence with 12 of that suspended. And what that meant is I had a 22-year sentence to do in prison. And once I finished that, I would have a 12-year sentence that I had to do on the streets.
Oh, okay.
So I never made parole. I discharged my 22-year sentence by doing 20 years, 5 months, and 29 days. I barely got any good time because I kept getting in trouble. And then once I discharged that, I still had 12 years suspended on the streets. And the first 4 of that was, coming and checking in and getting UAs and have to have a job and all that, or they could revoke it and make me do the 12.
So you and your crime partners, you guys all ended up taking plea deals?
Yeah. The oldest one, 16, he turned state's evidence and pled out to a 10-year sentence, 5 in and 5 out. He went from A&R, which is assessment and reception, to a minimum, a work center, and home. He didn't do 2 years altogether, counting and all.
And that was the driver?
That was the driver.
Okay.
The 14-year-old, the kid that shot the man, he got 50 years with 12 suspended, 38 in, 12 out. But he beat me home by a year and a half. Mm-hmm. I had 34 with 12 suspended, so I had 16 years less than him. But I got in a lot of fights and stuff, and he didn't have the trouble because he had hair on him. He had looked muscular, and I was 5'6" and weighed 135 pounds when I hit the yard.
Right. And so from the time you got arrested till the time you guys all took the plea bargain, how long did you sit in the county jail fighting your charges?
So as soon as I got locked up, they took me and Kenneth to the Berry House in Oklahoma City. It's a juvenile detention center. There wasn't one in the county I was in, so they took me to the one in that county. And that one, me and Kenneth were the only 2 white kids in there. All the rest were black kids. And I was there 5 months. They certified me as an adult, and then they sent me to the county jail. But at that time, they couldn't put me in with adults yet because I was trying to get reversed to juvenile. So I was in there. Me, Kenneth, and David were together for a little over a year in the county jail in drunk tanks. They didn't have nowhere to put us because they couldn't put us with adults, couldn't put us with kids. Right. So I was in the county all together a year and 5 months. Once I pled guilty and received my sentence, I went on to prison. So 5 months in the Berry House and a year and 5 months in the county jail.
And so during that 5 months, while you were in the Berry House, what was your thought process like? Was you did you have any idea of how much time you may get? What did you think you was potentially facing?
Man, I really didn't know. Like, I was so young. Like, when you're in the Berry House, every day the staff make notes about you. Like, there's a school you can go to. If you get up and go to breakfast, then you go to school, then exercise, then school, and you follow all the rules. And you don't want to get in no fights, because when they're trying to decide whether to make you a juvenile or an adult, it all comes down to how you act and stuff while you're there. If you get in a lot of fights, if you're violent. So the last thing I needed to do was get into fights. But I kept getting in fights. Like, it was the black guys in there. Like, there was Crips over here and Bloods over here, but they would all keep jumping on me. And I eventually ended up being friends with a few guys, and all that stopped. But up until then, it was fighting all the time, and I'm trying to stay out of trouble. And they come and offered me a chance to turn state's evidence because I was the youngest boy who hadn't shot the man. Uh-huh. And at the time, I didn't know what a rap was. So it's not like I didn't do it because I didn't want to be a rat. It's just I felt like I was just as responsible as him, as Kenneth.
Right.
And I just couldn't do that to him, man. To try to turn on him because I wanted a lighter when it was just as much my fault. So I refused it. My mom, my dad, everyone cried and begged me to take the deal. But something in me, I told him if I did that, I would be in prison the rest of my life.
And so around that time, you said the presence of Crips and Bloods were already in Oklahoma?
You know, there were young guys who were trying to be, but when I went to prison, okay, when I got to prison in 1991 is when I hit the 1990 of December. When I got there, you didn't hardly never see a Crip or a Blood. Hardly anybody claiming that there was. Mm-hmm. But a year or two after that, say back then, if a black guy and a white guy got in a fight, all the blacks would be out there, all the whites would be out there, and they'd be one-on-one. Okay, you fight, you earn your respect. People pretty much leave you alone because you'll get out there and get one. But then in 91, 92, there started to be a lot of Crips and Bloods enter the state of Oklahoma, coming from California. And once that happened, they took the attitude that, you know, we don't care if you killed 3 people to come to prison. You stabbed 10 since you've been here. 5 of us will roll up in there and smash you out. Right. And so that is where the UAB was formed, because the whites had to have a group that could also make a group to stand up against another group. You feel me?
What was it like initially when you first arrived at the prison?
Okay, so when I first got to the prison, I was 5'6" and 135 pounds. Before I even got on the yard, I was in the holding cell waiting to go out on the yard, and this black guy jams me up, and he's what we call a buzzard, doing a life sentence, and he likes young boys. Okay, so he wanted to know, hey, where are you going? Are you staying here? How old are you? What you up to? You know, so he was already putting his move down before I even made it to the yard.
Right.
Finally, he asked me what I'm in for, and I said, I'm in for murder, and anybody tries to mess with me, I'm going to kill them. And he said, hell, you might be all right. When you get on the yard, go down to the laundry, tell them Chester sent you. They'll hook you up. Of course, I ain't do that. I don't want Chester's hook up. You feel me?
Chester the molester, huh?
Oh, you bet, man. And he's notorious. You feel me? A notorious booty bandit.
Chester tells me, man, when you get out on the yard, you go down to the laundry, tell Joe Chester sent you down there. He's going to hook you up. Of course, I ain't go down there, man, because if you go get that hookup, then, you know, Chester, he's going to feel like, hey, he done you a favor when you get there. Right. Now, I ain't hit the yard yet, but I know that much. So the guards, they taking me down to the unit. When you first get there, they're going to put you in a certain day room called a pumpkin patch. That's for everyone just coming on the yard. Now, of course, some people coming from other prison yards, and they're not Skinners, but a lot of the people on that unit are Skinners.
Now, you every now and then I may have to ask you to familiarize me with some of the terms that you guys use down there, because I'm not familiar.
Skinner.
What's a Skinner?
A Skinner is a guy that just, okay, A&R is assessment and reception. If you're going to prison, no matter where you're coming from, no matter which county jail, you will leave county jail and you will go to Lexington A&R. That's assessment and reception. And no matter where you are, male or female, you got to go through there first. When you get there, they shave your head, then they assess you and decide according to your crime and how much time you got, where they're going to send you. Right. That usually takes between 30 and 90 days to get through that. Okay. So I turned 17 in November. In December, I went to A&R. I was there 1 month and got put on the yard at Lexington, which is a medium security prison. So I was 17 years old in 1 month when I hit the yard. So
once you, upon your arrival, did you have somewhat of at least a small idea about potential sexual harassment from other convicts?
Man, when I was in A&R in the county jail, once people found out I was going to prison, because I was so small, 5'6", 135 pounds, I didn't have no hair on my face. I had like 2 under this arm and 3 under this one. The ones on my leg were blonde. You couldn't see them. So I had long hair, blonde hair. So people immediately think I was pretty and tell me how much trouble I'm going to have. And nowadays in penitentiary, there ain't a lot of raping happening. It does happen here and there. But usually what happens is it's a mind game, try to pressure you into it. get you in debt, make you afraid of someone else, so you do it for their protection, things like that. And I knew that I was going to have to face a lot of that when I went to prison. I knew that that was coming for me. So as soon as I finished talking to Chester, when the guard's taking me across the yard, he's warning me. The guard is warning me. And they take me up and put me in a cell. It's a 2-people cell, but I just didn't happen to have a cellie yet. I was in the cell by myself. Now, the telephone is right by the guard shack. When I say a skinner, it's someone who has just come from A&R. They got their head bald, just coming in.
Okay.
So they got mostly skinners in this day room.
Right.
Because most of them are just coming in the penitentiary. But I'm the only one that's just turned 17. I just turned 17, but I still look 15, you know, and I was really small. And the guards are telling each other, they're saying, hey, keep your eye on him. He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. And there's a whole bunch of black guys ganging up in my day room, looking at me and stuff, asking me, hey, where are you from? Hey, do you got family in prison? Have I seen you somewhere before? Do I know you? Stuff like that to me. You know, I'm trying to open up a conversation. And so, like, I ain't going to lie, I was scared to death, man. Scared to death. But I'm thinking, I'm not going nowhere. These guards talking about I ain't going to make it. I'm not leaving. I'm not fixing to ask them to protect me. So there's a couple sets of phones. So I just try to stay on the phone all night. Okay. So I stay on the phone a while. I go up to my cell and lock the door. I only knew one guy there, a black guy named Cotton. Okay. So Cotton told me in the morning he would take me to the laundry to get my stuff because I don't have no sheets. They'll give you underwear, towels, basics until you can get your stuff. Your family can send you a small care package. So in the morning, Cotton's taking me to the laundry. He says, come on, we'll go in and eat. Then we'll go to the laundry. So when me and Cotton walk in the chow hall, the first thing I notice is that all the blacks are on one end and all the whites are on the other. And there's no one sitting together that is a different race. The Indians are together. The Mexicans are together. So I don't know what to do because I don't know no white guys. And Cotton's taking me to the laundry. So I just get my tray and I follow Cotton. And he sits kind of in the middle by himself. No one else is around. He has a buzzed head just like me. Everyone knows we're both Skinners. So I sit down there with him. As soon as I do, 2 other black guys sit with us. So I think, man, this ain't looking right. I can tell people are looking at me and shit. You know what I mean? And I figure I'm going to have problems already. So I just get up and don't even finish eating. Start head over to put my tray up. Told Cotton, I'll wait on you outside. He knew I was uncomfortable. He said he'd be right there. So I head up to put my tray up, and there's this old white guy standing there mugging. And when I put my tray up, he says, hey, come here. You don't sit over there with them. N-word, you know. You don't sit over there. You don't do that. I said, man, I don't know what's going on. I just got here, man. Cotton's just going to show me where the laundry's at. He said, you come on, I'll show you where the laundry's at. You don't do that. We don't sit together. Blacks don't sit with whites. Don't do that anymore. He said, I said, man, I just got here. I don't know nobody. Cotton's the only one I knew. Well, I'll show you where the laundry's at. You can come over and hang out with myself. So he takes me around there. I tell Cotton, man, he's going to show me. So Cotton's like, cool, because he knows that he's thinking some white guys might pull me up and look out for me. Okay? Because I always heard that there would be white guys, older guys would pull young guys up and look out for them if you're lucky. So I'm thinking maybe this guy's going to look out for me. So he takes me to laundry and gets his stuff, and then he takes me to his cell. Now, you got to understand that I have never seen at this time in prison, I had never seen an open homosexual, a guy that act like a girl.
Right.
I know that people, I'd heard stories, but I never have seen it. But he took me to his cell, and his cell partner is a flaming gay. Okay. But at first, he don't have makeup on. It's just his actions. And I think, man, this guy acts really feminine. So what really was going on is he was trying to turn me out himself. Right. This white guy. He was trying to use his cellie to get at me and trying to use the fact that the black guys are going to get me so he can get me. Right. So that right there decided for me that no one's going to decide for me who I hang out with or what I do. If I got everybody trying to get at me, I'm going to decide who my friends are. You feel me?
Right.
Yeah. So then I went and got me a job in the kitchen so I can stay off the yard as much as possible, you know. But the one thing that I did that caused I got in a lot of fights over is I played basketball. I grew up playing basketball in school. I played basketball with the brothers in the Berry House. I played basketball with the brothers in the penitentiary. Most white guys, truth of it is, don't play basketball with the blacks because of the skill level. They don't have the same coordination. They look bad on the court, so they don't do that. They play soccer. They play football. They're not into basketball. You know, so why would they go out there and get clowned? Right. But I play basketball and I can play. You feel me? So I played with the blacks a lot. So the whites looked down on me for hanging out with the blacks. And
did any of the white guys, when you started playing with the blacks, did any of them approach you and say, hey, man, that's something we don't do here. You better stop playing with them or anything like that?
No. So here's what they do is pretty much just none of the white guys was trying to pull me up, man. Nobody was trying to look out for me. They would just talk down on me like, well, if he ain't an N-word punk, he will be. Look who he's hanging out with. Right. But, man, I'm hanging out with people who are talking to me respectfully. I don't know nobody. I'm just trying to fit in. So if you talk to me, I like playing ball. They would treat me with respect. So after about 5-6 months there's this black dude there, and he is a Crip, okay? There's very few there, but he is, and he's an OG. Okay, so all the little young guys, even though they're not all Crips or Bloods, they still listen to him. It's like he has stroke. This guy pretty much runs shit on the black side of things. His name was Trey. Okay, so when you get into a fight with white guys or Indians or Mexicans, man, it's kick, scratch, fight, pull hair, bite, poke, whatever you can do to win. But when you fight with the brothers, it's all from the shoulder. They won't let you wrestle. You know what I'm saying? You get into an argument on the basketball court, you go in a corner and get one. Now, a lot of times they'll double and triple team people, but Trey was like, no, the little white boy comes out and plays with us, he gonna get a one-on-one. So they make me get over there and fight one-on-one if somebody called me a bitch or whatever. And I've been in that corner a gang of times, and they won't let you wrestle. If you start locking up, they'll separate you and make you swing them again until you're both cool.
Now, let me just pause you right here. So if you can remember, can you detail your first fight that you got into on the basketball court and you had to go fight somebody black?
Yeah, man. So this dude, he was bigger than me, okay? And he kept trying to bully me underneath the go. And I would go under there and try to put body on him, and he hit me with a bow and finally caught me in the eye and put a big-ass lump on me. But then he got in my face and he called me a bitch. So the dude is like a head taller than me, you know what I'm saying? So shit, I'm thinking I need some kind of advantage. So he's called me a bitch of shit. I just stood there like I wasn't going to do shit. And as soon as he turned his back on me, I stole on him, hit him in the ear, bust his eardrum. So in that, and Trey told us to get in the corner. Right. So we get over in the corner, and like me and him are like squared up, and I'm already nervous. He's bigger than me. I'm out here with all these black guys. There ain't no white guys around. And then his cousin tried to steal on me. And that's when Trey was like, no. If you want to get one with him, that was the first fight right there. Trey set that in action. No, y'all want to get one with him, it's going to be one-on-one. The little white boy plays with him. If he's willing to fight, y'all show him some fucking respect. So me and him, okay, so we tussle. We hit each other a few times. I ain't get the best of that dude. I'm not going to lie and say I did. But no one lost. Neither one of us gave up. You know, they broke us up 2-3 times because I kept trying to grab him, man. I went to wrestling. I wrestled in school, and that's my main thing is wrestling. So we throw a few licks. He'll catch me. I try to grab him. They break us up. Oh. And we went through 3 rounds like that until finally he said, man, fuck it, man. Fuck it. You know, and then we went back to playing ball. Shit.
These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square, yeah.
I swear to God, the game is cold, homie.
Why?
I popped on a pussy ass nigga after he stole on me.
What happened next?
That nigga came to court and told on me.
Put that on something.
That's on my soul, homie. Called the highway patrol on me, plus the sheriffs and cops. He told him my name was Eric and I carried the block. Soon as you start blowing shots, them niggas going to jail. They'll have a meeting with the cops and then you going to jail. They'll tell him about the shooting, take him, show him his well. DA trying to seal your casket, they gon' throw him the nails. They wanna put me back in the cell and have me with an L again. Same strip searches and guards read my mail again. Had me far away in the bay, I'm talking Pelican. Eating cold ass soy burgers and warm gelatin. I'm far too intelligent to fall for that twice. Niggas yelling gang gang and ain't about that life. And they'll turn rat right in front of your face. Get you found guilty plus 100 years on the case. Your mama sitting in the courtroom with tears on her face. Her baby shackle feet, hands and waist.
Goddamn.
These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square. These niggas ain't who they say they is, so beware. Fuck what you saying, cause these cowards ain't playing fair. They shoot at you, you shoot at them, they snitch, and they don't care. Fuck gang banging, I'd rather be a square, yeah.